So when does a pullback become something more? In other words, when does a pullback evolve into a bigger decline? Hey, this is Arthur Hill, Chief Technical Strategist at TrendInvestorPro.com. You are tuned into Next Level Charting. Thank you very much for joining us. So today I want to show you a systematic approach to identifying when a pullback becomes something more. In other words, a pullback turns into a long-term downtrend. Now, this is not a foolproof approach. There's no such thing as a foolproof approach, but I just want to give you a systematic approach to doing this. We're going to look at some long-term trend indicators that I use to define the longer-term trend. And then we're going to look at the structure of the price move and try to decide if it is a correction within an uptrend or if it has already reversed that uptrend. We're going to look at ITB, the Homebuilders ETF, and a number of stocks. So I'm going to be working off of StockCharts ACP today, and I've got up a chart of ITB. And I've got a couple of indicators from the Trend Investor Pro Indicator Edge plugin. And on the bottom right there, you can see that icon for plugins. And there you can see all the different plugins. If you don't have it, you can click the link to get more information about that plugin. And so I'm on the Trend Investor Pro Indicator Edge plugin. And you can see there are 11 indicators. And the two that I'm going to use today are the trend composite, which is a composite of 5 different trend following indicators. When 3 of the 5 are bullish, it becomes +1. And when 4 of the 5 are bullish, it becomes +3. And if all 5 are bullish, it becomes +5. And that's what I'm going to use to define the overall trend. And then I'm going to add the Trend Investor Pro Momentum Composite, and it is used to identify short-term oversold conditions within a bigger uptrend. And if I go back over here, you can see on the left-hand side at the top, I can click on the chart settings, and there I can add the indicators. At the bottom, you'll see the Trend Investor Pro Momentum Composite and Trend Composite as well there. And so I'm going to just adjust the settings on the Momentum Composite a little bit to make it a little more sensitive. And in particular, I'm going to adjust the Commodity Channel Index. And I've got 20 periods, but I'm going to adjust it to 100 for overbought and -100 for oversold. I'm really not interested in oversold readings when the trend is up, overbought readings, when the trend is up. I'm more interested in oversold readings when the trend is up. And for the normalized rock, I'm going to adjust that to 5 periods. And I'm going to click close, and that will update those settings. So here's a chart for ITB, and when you look at this chart, here's an example of when a bias could come into play. If we have an outlook where the cup is half full and the market is overbought and we're going to crash or we're going to turn down hard, then you're going to be seeing more bearish-oriented setups. But what we need to do is we need to put those biases at the door. We need to leave them on the sidelines and try and look at the chart in an objective manner. And when I look at this chart in an objective manner, I see at least 3 things that tell me we're in a bigger uptrend. And it's that bigger uptrend that sets my bias. If we're in an uptrend, my bias is bullish, and I expect positive resolutions. I don't expect bearish resolutions. I don't look for bearish setups. Now, if you go into this saying, I got a bearish bias towards this for whatever reason, well, then you could see maybe some sort of head and shoulders pattern. But it's not symmetrical because this shoulder is extending. And you could say, well, no, this is just, a big top forming, and a support break here would be bearish. Now, come on, at the end of the day, we all have pretty much a 50-50 chance. It's going to go up or it's going to go down. We have a 50-50 chance of being right or wrong. But in order to try and put that systematic approach to work, here's what I'm seeing on the chart. First of all, we started hitting 52-week highs there in July and August and into October. So if you got a 52-week high a few months ago, you're in an uptrend, I think, usually. And second, you can see there's a 200-day, and it is rising. So we're above the rising 200-day. So we got a 52-week high in sight. We're above the rising 200-day. And then there's the trend composite. We got some whipsaws there in June, but we got bullish in July when 4 of the 5 indicators were bullish. That's a net of +3. And then all 5 were bullish here in late July. So it's been bullish here. So we don't have any trend signals to suggest that we are in a downtrend. So when I approach this chart, I say, okay, we are in an uptrend. The stock market is in an uptrend. We're in a bull market environment. Is there a bullish continuation pattern on the chart? And all I need is a couple lines to figure that out. But you can see here that this is basically a triangle type consolidation. If you put your Bollinger Bands on there, you're going to see a Bollinger Band squeeze in the making. And basically what it is, I think, is you've had this massive advance and you needed some time to digest this advance. And that's what this consolidation did. It digested all these gains. And I think the odds are that we're going to get a breakout and a move higher in ITB. So if we close below those lows here from late December, early January, maybe we reevaluate. But, you know, ITB could pull back into this zone here in the low 50s and still be in an uptrend. In other words, that would probably set up a mean reversion opportunity. Now, the last mean reversion setup here, as far as the indicators were concerned, was when the momentum composite got to -4. So that meant that 4 of the 5 indicators in that indicator group were oversold. Now, I changed the sensitivity, as you saw at the beginning, but that's what that's telling you is when you're in an uptrend, you get that many oversold, that tells you to be prepared for a mean reversion bounce. Also to look at the chart for a potential bounce. And we're going to look at some other charts with these indicators coming up here. So at trendinvestorpro.com, I do keep an ETF rankings, signals, and setups table. And this has 117 ETFs. And I track trends, uptrends, the date of the uptrend, the number of bars, and the percentage change. And when you're in that uptrend, you're looking for pullbacks along the way. And the way we define or find those pullbacks is to look for short-term oversold conditions. And that's what this column here does. It tells me when an ETF was oversold over the last 5 days, and it is in an uptrend, up and OS. And if we look here, we can see that ITB came across as oversold in an uptrend over the last 5 days. And that's what prompted me to investigate the chart further and see if there was a bullish setup working. And there is, as I showed you, a bullish continuation pattern, a big triangle. All right, so now let's look at some individual stocks that I think are setting up. And the first one here is Nvidia. And what's amazing about Nvidia is when we had the breakdown in February and March there with the COVID crisis hitting, you can see that the trend composite did not turn negative. So we never had a long-term bearish signal from Nvidia. And there you can see it bouncing off the 200-day and pretty much more than doubling from 200 to 500. So since it hit 500 or 600 actually, it's consolidated. And this trend composite is still bullish. And a consolidation within an uptrend is typically a bullish continuation pattern. So that systematic approach saying we're above the rising 200-day, we have a 52-week high within a few months, we've got the trend composite all bullish, that tells me I still want to have a bullish bias on Nvidia. And so I'm expecting a bounce off support and a breakout on this stock. So what about Zoom? I mean, Zoom has had a pretty big decline over the last few months. But what if we put on our systematic hats and say, what does the evidence tell us about Zoom? Well, first of all, we have a 52-week high in October. That's bullish. Second, we have a rising 200-day moving average, and we're above that moving average. We came down to that moving average, but we're still above it. So those two things are pointing to an uptrend. And then third, the trend composite has been bullish since the early part of February. So it caught this entire move. Now you can see all 5 indicators were on bullish signals, but then one went bearish and then another went bearish, but still 3 of the 5 are on bullish signals. And you can look to the documentation on the indicators and look at the individual indicators if you want to see which ones. But this indicator group does not turn bearish until we have 3 of the 5 at least bearish. And it wasn't bearish, it was bearish back in January 2020, but was bullish the rest of the year. Now what's interesting is the momentum composite went to -5 here in late December, early January there. And so it was oversold. All 5 indicators were oversold. And now we're getting a bounce off of the 200-day. Now this stock is not for the faint at heart, obviously. It's a momentum stock with a lot of volatility. But I think when I look at this in a subjective, objective, in an objective manner, that's what I meant to say, I think it is a correction within an uptrend. And I would expect a breakout and continuation higher at some point. And this one here is Motorola Solutions, MSI. And what I noticed here is it's got a consolidation after a breakout in an uptrend, and it is breaking out. So you can see here, there is the big breakout there in October when it broke out above these highs here. Just before that, you can see the stair step in the trend composite as it slowly turned from 3 of the 5 bullish to 4 of the 5 to all 5 bullish. All 5 indicators are on bullish trend signals. And then we can see this triangle consolidation forming. And that's really what this trend indicator does. It tells you when to look for bullish continuation patterns and when to expect a bullish resolution. And if I look at this, we had a big advance, a consolidation, and now we're breaking out of that triangle, and I think that is a bullish configuration. And finally, we got another stock, Leidos Holdings, not sure how to pronounce that, LEIDOS. Shows that it's in technology and computer services. And if we look at this chart here, we can see a big corrective wedge forming and then a breakout. And after we got that breakout there, you can see the trend composite turning positive in November as we got above the 200-day. And so what we've got is a big advance here and then a consolidation after the advance. It's like a little flag pattern is forming. I'll redraw that better for you. There we go. So we have a big advance and a consolidation, and that makes it a bullish continuation pattern, and it looks like it is breaking out and poised to move higher. And if you move below the lows there, that would call for a reevaluation. So that concludes this edition of Next Level Charting. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please visit trendinvestorpro.com if you'd like to know more about our services. Again, thanks for tuning in and have a great day.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.